All right, welcome to episode 29 of the At Bat Baseball podcast presented by War Media, where we give you our thoughts on the latest Chicago baseball news as well as take a trip around the league. I am Saul Rodriguez along with Miles Porter and our guest today, Chris Pennant. How we doing today, man?
You know what it is, baby? Bad religion all day. I'm in my punk rock Wednesday wear, I guess. I'm just talking, man. This is the shirt that I pulled out of the drawer. But it's great to be back on the show. Honestly, it's been from your perspective an exciting or depressing or disappointing or mind-boggling second half of the season, and you would think that the playoffs couldn't get any more nutty, and then here we are.
Yeah, no, it's just like a mountain. We keep going up, and it gets crazier and crazier. How you doing today, Miles?
Hey, doing good. I feel I'm sick, so that's always fun. But we're back into live ABs for the off season, and the start for my season for next year starts now. So getting ready for that, seeing pitches, feeling good, and just getting ready.
Miles,
You
you
go.
gotta let me know if there's like a third first baseman DH slot on your team. I gotta see if I can hit pitching above like 65 miles per hour. I gotta at least test myself.
I'll hit you up, Craig. I think we got something for you. I think we can make that work.
All right, because if I play one season and then do like my man Tom Berenger and just retire at the end of the year and become a coach, I'm good with that.
Yeah,
My
Miles. Yeah,
people will
Miles.
talk to your people.
Yeah, Miles. If you have any simulated games that you just need a body and the pitchers need a body in the box,
You see? You
we
see?
got you. Me and Chris got
Just a
you right here.
stand-in, just a stand-in
Yeah.
hitter. Just
Yeah, because
I
I'm not hitting
practice
anything.
bunting and that's it.
Oh no, I'm gonna be too scared to be honest. I'm gonna be like oh no.
the
Back
dude
away
I was
every
I
time.
was I was getting live pitching from. He was throwing 94,
You said what?
93, just bringing it. It was fun. It was
Oh
fun.
my
I love it.
god.
You
I
heard
can't
my
even.
voice? Like you said what? You said hell no?
I know. I told
Yeah,
I told Miles that when I tried out for baseball, I couldn't even hit the machine, and the machine's like 70.
machines are stupid though. Some
It's
machines are
crazy.
just there's machines that I can't hit. So there's no. It's okay. It's okay.
I
So don't worry. Some
I
machines
just,
are stupid.
I just can't imagine what 94 looks like compared to
Yeah,
70.
yeah. You don't see it till it gets like close.
And
That's
that's why
wild.
yeah, that's why like when like pitchers throw like I don't know, like an 80-mile-per-hour fastball, or sorry, 80-mile-per-hour breaking ball, and then like throw a 97-mile-per-hour fastball. Like people don't understand how like I mean I can't imagine what that looks like, let alone just you'd be like, damn, that's ridiculous.
I'm the type of
Um,
hitter where if you do that to me, I'm swinging out of my shoes and probably falling over because I swing hard, man. I'm trying to square it up and hit it. I'm trying to take the pitcher's head off. So yeah, yeah,
no, yeah,
that's
I mean it's yeah,
yeah.
I'm sure it takes some getting used to for that for sure. But you're good. All right, we'll start off with Chicago baseball, guys. Obviously, we're not in the postseason. None of us are. No Cubs fans, no White Sox fans enjoying postseason baseball, but there's still some buzz going around. And we'll start with the White Sox just because theirs is the most important with the manager search. And they supposedly have liked two managers in particular. They haven't said who it was, but they have interviewed quite a few. I'm not sure if they've interviewed Joe Madden yet, but I know they said that they were going to interview him. I've heard Joe Espada too from the Astros. They're obviously he's still in the postseason. So, but yeah, Chris, what are your initial thoughts on that and like stuff that you heard? Who is your leading candidate first, and then we'll talk about the guys I've interviewed in total.
Well, Kyle, the RZA of our group, put out
Mm,
a survey last week, I
mm,
think it was, and I put my thoughts down pretty plain. Matter of fact, if I can bring those up because I saw it, I think I had some things going on that weekend, and then I remembered, okay, you got to turn this in, and I was pretty straight up about what exactly I wanted, and so yeah, I got this because this is pretty good for the Jim. It was Joe Madden, Jim Tomey, and Ozzy. I think who he put out, and I said, Jim Tomey, really? Is this a real idea? Just don't give me that. Joe Madden, I think is just. It's funny because I like Joe Madden when I do coaching outside of this, when outside of the job, I like to keep things fresh and keep things lively for my team. I think it keeps them involved, and so I honestly like Joe Madden's shtick with the Cubs. I thought it was fun. I thought it was cool. but he just doesn't seem to be able to get it going. And he had, for a good amount of the season this year, both Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, plus actual other hitters, Taylor Ward. And you can't blame a 12 or 13 game losing streak all on him, but he really didn't get anything out of that ball club. There's a lot of moving parts going on there. Artie Moreno is probably a bottom 5 owner in the league right now. But if you can't get anywhere close to a 500 record with those two guys, plus some actual hitting, plus some actual decent pitching, then what else is he going to really do? And I think his reputation has just suffered after the World Series. A lot of back then, it was the Cubs won a World Series with Joe Madden. Now it's kind of turned to the Cubs have won a World Series in spite of Joe Madden. He's got Dave Roberts' reputation, and Ozzie is a retread too. I think Ozzie, you can't come back from where he was, and so I'm really high on Joe Espada. My colleague Janice Scurio had a lot of good to say about him. And I respect and trust Janice's opinion. And I think just reading up on him, the bit I did, he's been with good organizations. He's highly thought of. So I think he would be a great choice. I said Ron Washington would be a good, solid choice, him and Willie Harris. If Wash wants to manage, if he doesn't want to deal with the grind of that, I completely understand. He has the things on his record. And I'm not talking about the drug thing, because we have been around 7 people in the last week who snorted cocaine. I'm going to be straight up about that. His infidelity, that's the thing I think that would be the most concerning if you're going to talk about a black mark on his record. But I understand if he just wants to coach. Willie Harris, Joe Espada, those are the two guys that I would really look at. I think Willie Harris has been around baseball long enough, has been coaching in organizations that have good front offices, and that includes the Cubs, long enough that people respect him, and he's been gaining knowledge. So I would take either of those two guys. I don't want anybody who has any relation with the White Sox at this point in time, because anybody that's in the organization that is a name that's close to this managerial search isn't the guy, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, it's been the choices have been all over the place, but I think the one that I also was like, no way. Like, even not even as a White Sox fan, was Mike Schilt. I heard that and I was like, there's just no way. That's like Tony La Russa 2.0. Like, there's just no way. You know what I mean? So, like, I was like, that no, just that can't be. Miles, what did you think overall, or what have you thought about the guys that you've heard of so far for that manager search?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, really sharing a lot of the same sentiment as Chris. I'm pretty sold on Joe Espada. And I think when it comes to Joe Madden, there's definitely aspects of his managerial style which can be critiqued pretty much. And I think like Chris said, since the World Series, there have been interesting managerial decisions that he's made. And we all know that at the end of the day, he's an incredible manager. But he did have a lot of talent this year that he tried to propel these guys, and things didn't go the way that we all expected it for the Angels to go. And I think just for the White Sox, I'm hoping for someone who can just inspire these boys. And I think Joe Espada is pretty much a perfect fit, in my opinion. He's been constantly around winning baseball. He's also a little bit on the younger side too, a little bit of a contrast from Tony, which is no shot at Tony at all. But this is a very like young team. I always say the White Sox remind me of like a really gritty like JUCO baseball team, because they just play with that energy, they play with that personality and that swag. And you need someone who could like just inspire these guys to be themselves and just go out there and have fun and compete. So I think that's where Joe Espada comes in. Ron Washington, I think that's another great decision. But maybe Ron Washington doesn't want all that responsibility. And I think Willie Harris is an interesting choice as well. He's expressed his interest in it, but we'll see. I think there's some good options out there for sure. I just really hope that they bring a manager that can propel this winning culture and get the Sox back on track.
Yeah, no, like, the choices are there, and I think that there's definitely some ones that are very obviously, pretty good picks. Joe Espada, I thought Willie Harris off the bat also, but apparently, to my knowledge, as of like the last couple of days, he said that the Sox hadn't even reached out to him yet. If I remember him saying right, but who knows on that end. But I do think he's a good option, and Ron Washington is one that I thought about too, and that despite the age thing, because I'm thinking the same thing as kind of Miles. Like I do want like kind of a new face. That's the one thing I do prefer for the Sox is just like a guy that hasn't made a name for himself just yet, but has a reputation in the game. Like a Joe Espada. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see who they go with. I know obviously they're gonna pick someone after the postseason because they're gonna wait for Espada and all that and just the rest, but I did also hear that they were looking at somebody from the Royals, right, Chris? Or do you by any chance know who it was? I don't remember if they said his name.
I'm not sure. I'm not
Mm.
sure. It's which is interesting because it never felt like they were just kind of holding the fort with Mike Matheny. It
Mm-hmm.
felt like the Cardinals let him go and then they picked him up. Like, this is going to be the guy to at least get us to something competitive when Cardinals fans everywhere had been like, he's super mid. So for that organization who comes up good players, I feel like they make good decisions in terms of minor league scouting and major league scouting. They brought in guys who can compete at a major league level. Even if you put them outside of the AL Central, there would still be the guys who you can't just pitch around. So I'm not sure. It would be interesting to go within the Royal system. I don't know of a specific name. I will say that much. I had not heard anything on that, but I will check.
Oh yeah, no, I just looked it up. It's the KC Royals Pedro Grifol, which I mean I haven't heard of that guy, but he's
Oh,
a
man,
bench
I remember
coach.
that name.
He's a bench coach. Yeah, so that is a pick to watch. In division, and he knows the division, so that'd be something that and he's fairly young to what I see. I don't know his age, but he looks like a younger guy too. But yeah, we'll see, man. I mean, I think that the White Sox, it's gonna hinge on a lot of things, like this managerial search is gonna be pivotal to what the Sox do in the next few years, obviously, and as we've seen this year, anything could happen. So time is of the essence for sure. We'll go from the White Sox to the Cubs now, and it still has a little bit to do with the White Sox because we were talking about it before we went on, but the Cubs are looking at Jose Abreu, and I'm sure I was thinking about as soon as I saw it, I was like, man, that would be so weird to see see the big guy in a Cubs uniform. But I wanted to get your thoughts as a White Sox fan, Chris. Your initial thoughts of hearing that.
Nah, man, that's my initial thought. Don't do it. Don't do it tonight. I
I can
can't.
hear it in his voice. I can hear it in your voice,
Yeah.
Chris.
I can't do it. Don't do. I can't do it. I really wouldn't be able to take that. No, it's like we. The one thing that was very apparent with Jose Abreu this year is that he couldn't catch the fastball like he could earlier in his career, and that was 2 years prior. I don't know if it was just turning 36. I don't know if it was some nagging injury that was kind of hampering him. He's always just seemed to have his lower leg, ankle problems, but I think it was apparent from the first day of the year that he was not hitting the fastball like he had previously. And so he was being more judicious in his pitch selection, got his OBP up. He's a professional player. He knows how to help his team win, not just to put up stats. He knows how to help his team win. And so that was my worry in terms of the Sox bringing him back. It was like, well, he's at the end of his contract. He's going to play out the year. Hopefully they make the playoffs, which of course you saw that went. And then I was just hoping that somebody was going to give him another deal that could use a designated hitter or needed a first baseman that could get to the playoffs. I think the one thing with the Cubs is that they're not in position to get to the playoffs quite yet, but he would be an upgrade over Alfonso Rivas. I think that's pretty apparent. That's me being objective about it. Subjectively, don't ever tell me about Jose Abreu playing for the Cubs. We will fight.
Yeah, no, I was thinking that, man. I was like, because as soon as it happened, I also hit up one of my friends that is a big White Sox fan, just like you, Chris, and he said the same thing. He's like, no, please. Like, no, just no. And I'm like, no, hey, even as a Cubs fan, it'd be really weird to see him in a Cubs uniform. But, when it comes to the reasoning of why, he'd be a good fit, it's all there, man. I mean, this is a guy who's, at 35 still, being able to put up seasons of, 824 OPS. Had 183 hits last year, which is the second most in his career, tied for the second most in his career since 2016. That's when he had 183. But Miles, what's your take on that, man? I mean, as another Cubs fan, it's Jose Abreu on the north side.
It would be weird. It would be weird, but the options point to it. Frankly, I'm sick and tired of seeing PJ Higgins play first base. I just don't like it. It's just weird. I don't like it. He's a solid first baseman. I just don't like seeing him at first base. I really don't. We've kind of run out of options when it comes to productive first baseman. Going back to PJ Higgins, I think he was actually very solid for the majority of the season. But for the most part, I would love to get even more production out of that position. Alfonso Rivas, who I think is a very smooth, very poised player. There's still a lot of holes offensively in his game, and to this point in his career, what we've gotten out of him, we can't really depend on him to be productive offensively. So a lot of everything is pointing towards this being a great move for the Cubs. It'll be weird. It'll be really weird. I feel weird for Sox fans having to see Jose Abreu in a Cubs jersey playing first base at Wrigley. That'd be weird. I'm not opposed to it. I have no problem with it. But when I understand the feeling, seeing Rizzo in the Yankees jersey and seeing him pose the same way he did as a Yankee from when he won the World Series, that's weird. That's weird to look at. So you know what? I'm all for it. Everything is pointing towards it. But if I'm also not against him. Any small chance of him staying with the White Sox, because I think he's a White Sox. Me personally. But if the cards play out well, then come to the north side.
Yeah, that's the way I see it. Is that if he has to go anywhere, I'd welcome him on the north side. But it's if he stayed with the White Sox, it would make more sense. Just because of he's a White Sox player through and through so far. So, and that's the way also I see it with Aaron Judge too. Is like it'd be cool to see him go somewhere, go to his hometown team like the Giants or something like that. But I think it's good for baseball if he stays with the Yankees. But that's just me. And I think with the Abreu too is that I was saying before we got on to, I was telling Chris is that he definitely fits the Cubs in the sense of a placeholder for the next first baseman. Whether it's really Matt Mervis who's going to be that first baseman for the Cubs, in the next couple of years, then Abreu can hold down the fort for him, and then maybe even move over to DH or whatever. But it's something that I'm sure a lot of people didn't expect, and for him. And the thing is too is that I saw that that tweet that saying that he's high on the Cubs list. So I'm sure if he's high on the Cubs list, then there's a good chance that this could happen. So we'll see. But moving now to what's currently going on in baseball right now, it's the postseason, and we've made it through the wild card series and the division series. We're officially at the league championship series. But man, I mean, Chris, you alluded to it a little bit too when we first got on before we started recording, is how insane this postseason has been already, and just kind of going through the division series. We'll go in order. But Miles, what did you think about we'll start in the NLDS. So the Phillies and the Braves. So the Phillies won that one 3-1, and it was really just the Phillies again. I think people have underestimated going into the postseason, and I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of there when it came to the underestimating the Phillies pitching, in the sense of the starting pitching. I knew the starting pitching was there, but the bullpen has come through and been able to win them a couple series too, help them win a couple series. So, what did you think about that upset of the Braves?
I think you said it right there. I think the Braves really underestimated the ability of Philadelphia. This is a team that caught fire on all cylinders, and when you look at defensively as well, they were making the plays that they had to. I think they almost overwhelmed the Braves in a sense where the Braves were like, "Whoa, wait a minute, where did this come from? We're not expecting all that." And you see the success of Harper, and even Schwarber, who had a pretty rough series, if you look at his numbers offensively, everyone was just stepping up. Bryson Stott, Rhys Hoskins, who also kind of struggled that series as well, but timely hitting. I mean, in playoff baseball, that's like the main thing. That's one of the main things that gives you success is being a timely hitter, getting the big hit when it matters, because every single moment is so important. Even if you go 0 for whatever, and it's your last at bat, most likely in the 8th inning, you got the go ahead run on 3rd, sac fly, base hit. That's what people are going to remember. So I think it's just a matter of the Phillies understanding, what's at stake, understanding who they are as a ball club, and they're just building off of that energy every single game right now. So, hats off to Philadelphia. I love this squad. I love Nick Castellanos. I'm a big Bryce Harper fan. Love Brandon Marsh. Him finding success on this team after being dealt from the Angels. I just want to see them do well.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I was checking the stats because the one game that I saw up close was game 3. And it's funny, my friend that I mentioned earlier, Janice Scurio, I think had put Aaron Nola in there as basically like the poster boy for right on the line between average and above average starting pitcher. And I was checking his stats, and it's like you look past the win-loss record, which of course you should at this point in time. He had a really darn good year, and he had the game that really kind of settled things down. I thought that it was very plausible that Philadelphia could lose their game 4 at home, but game 3 he went in there and shut down a good Braves team that had played very well in game 1 and just lost a shootout, and then went about their business in game 2. And I figured, okay, this is the one that we're going to have a repeat of game 1. It's Aaron Nola. He's probably going to go 5 or 4 strong or 5 strong, and then lose his way in the 6th. And he didn't. He never did. He pitched as about as brilliant a game as you can get in today's starting pitching. And then the Phillies just came out the next game and did what they had to do. And what they did this series was beat the brakes off the Braves. That's what, Nick Castellanos, like Miles said, he came back. Bryce Harper came back. Rhys Hoskins came back from a dreadful 2021. Shout out Gene Segura, man. Still kicking around in this league, still hitting in the postseason. And Brandon Marshall, like you said, I saw him up close a few games last year when the Angels played the White Sox, and that man can hit. He has a bad beard, but he can hit. And the Phillies,
bad beard is weird.
It's a weird beard. It's a weird beard for sure. He looks like, man, a man looking like Brody Lee out there,
like
R.
Doug Dynasty. Yeah.
but the Phillies bats came in, and I think that's what had just kept. What we know was the bullpen, and the bullpen was good enough in games 3 and 4, and that's what had always failed them. But the Phillies bats came up. It's going to be more about the bullpen and the pitching in the NLCS against Padres team who was a bit similar, who has the chance to break out but didn't really hit the ball as hard against Los Angeles. Then it's going to be more about the Phillies bullpen if they can prove they're up to it. If Brad Hand can prove that he's not just kind of riding a fluke wave. But the Philadelphia Phillies bats are really what carried them.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. You mentioned the bullpen, and that's what that's the weakness that I had them eliminated for in the first round against the Cardinals, because the Cardinals I thought had a better bullpen, and they did. They just didn't, like when you look at the numbers, they do have a better bullpen, but they didn't perform. They were outperformed by the Phillies. And the thing is too also is that the Phillies are in the NLCS now, and they have Jose Abreu closing games, which is insane to me because of where they're at and the type of season or the type of pitcher that Abreu has been the last couple of years. Not as good as he was, in his initial season with the Rays, but he's got the stuff. He's got the nasty stuff. So I think that's kind of also, and the fact that a lot of batters haven't faced him yet, especially on the Padres. also has to do with that, I'm sure. But yeah, no, that was you were right on the sense that they beat the brakes off the Braves. I mean, you look at the last two games. I mean, 9-1 and 8-3. And Spencer Strider game as well. I don't think Strider was healthy enough to pitch that game, and I think it showed. I understand why they put him out there. I think if he was good enough to go, but I don't think he was healthy enough, and I think that hurt the Braves. And Braves are my World Series pick too on that end. So they weren't able to keep up there. But yeah, Phillies, and we're recording this now on a Wednesday after game one of the NLCS. And of course the Phillies took game one over the Padres, who beat the Dodgers in the other NLDS series. That was another upset. And I've mentioned this before, the fact that the Dodgers fans were just going crazy over this loss, and people I even saw a reporter say, an LA reporter say that if this was the year, this was before the series even ended, he mentioned that if there was any year that they should cancel the postseason and give the trophy to someone, it would be the Dodgers, because they had 111 wins. So it just the Dodgers fans, the Dodgers writers were out, as even before the series ended. But the Padres, just came out and surprised the world with that 3-1 series. What'd you think about that, Chris?
You got to sell papers these days. There's a lot of competition in the media landscape, so you got to sell those papers. That's the only reason I could see for somebody saying that. I hope it wasn't Bill Plaschke, because I respect him a lot, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I know that when the team like that wins, then it's easy to say after the fact, there was nobody beating this team this year. And of course you can say that because they won. When those Yankees teams in the late 90s won, you could say, oh, of course nobody was beating them this year because they won. But when those teams lose, then you got to look back and say, what was the cause of it? And I didn't for a second think that this Padres team was going to beat the Los Angeles Dodgers. Not only were they worse than they were in 2020, and even last year when they just collapsed down the stretch, the Dodgers were just better. The Dodgers were just so much better at every single possible turn. The White Sox could have beaten the Dodgers 2 of 3 in Chicago, and they didn't, because the Dodgers were just better, and because Tony La Russa walked somebody with 2 strikes. That didn't help either. But there's no rhyme or reason to it that LA just went quiet this time around. I don't know. I really can't put words to it. What happened to Freddie Freeman? What happened to Gavin Lux? What happened to Will Smith? It's incomprehensible, because this team, you've got Jerks and Profar getting meaningful at bats, and the only 2 guys that you really have, no Tatis. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure it out, because I didn't see it coming. I knew that they had Blake Snell. I didn't expect him to be 2020 or 2019 Blake Snell, but he was, and he didn't have his manager pulling him early. So, that's when you have Bud Black in there. I think that's the only thing that you can really look at, that you have Bud Black matched up against Dave Roberts, and the better manager came out on top.
So yeah, I mean that's an interesting take. When it comes to the whole, no playoff things because of Doc. Stop it right now. We've never given out participation trophies. We're not doing it now. That's a very talented ball club from all 26. All 26 of those guys are very talented. Playoff baseball is playoff baseball. Now, is that is that a surprising series loss? Yeah, it's a team on 111 games, but I just think that they got kind of cold in the playoffs. They kind of caught some cold feet. Their opponent did it, and it's just I don't even know if there's much reassessing for the Dodgers to do going into next season. I guess it's just a matter of just getting a better feel of finishing. This is a team, aside from 2020, where they've done a good job of getting into the playoffs and making deep runs. But aside from 2020, this team haven't gotten to the World Series. as much as you would expect them to. They've been there, but they haven't gotten there as much as you would expect them to. So I think, just reevaluating some things in terms of just knowing how to finish and maybe not burning guys out. 111 wins means that everybody was doing a job, but there was also a lot of energy put into the regular season. So I think it's just a matter of managing how we're moving players around, how certain guys are being, how many innings certain players are pitching, X, Y, and Z. This isn't like a load management kind of thing. This is just kind of just being aware of, this is a very long season, and it's easy to get burnt out or tired or mentally tired going into the playoffs. So I think the Dodgers will be fine. Dodgers fans will be fine. The Dodgers are going to be one of the best teams in baseball again next year. It's just a matter of just finishing. That's it.
Can I ask? So, Miles, how much do you think this falls on the coaching staff?
Gosh, I would say, I don't know. I guess for me, I'm going 50-50 on it. I think just because this is such a talented ball club that is proven that they are able to perform well against any other team. This isn't really a topic that is talked about too much, but just from my perspective as a player, when there's so much effort mentally that goes into the regular season, just a little bit going into the playoffs, there is that slight fatigue, not physically, but there is a little bit of a mental part of you that's kind of like, oh crap, all right, well, we started in February and here we go now, probably going into November if we make it all the way. I think, gosh, I really feel like everyone plays a role. Everyone played a role in this. But I will say the players are, going out there to perform. And I do believe Dave Roberts has done a fairly, good job with this ball club.
Yeah, and you know what, Miles, too, is that what I've heard the last few days from Dodger fans is actually the complete opposite. I've actually heard quite a bit of Dodger fans going at Dave Roberts saying it's time for him to go.
Too.
Yeah. So, you made a good point when you're saying, the fact that besides 2020, they haven't, necessarily won anything. So that's what a lot of Dodger fans are saying is, hey, they've only won one World Series, with Dave Roberts, and it was a 2020 season. You look at every other season, they've had plenty of one seeds that haven't been able to do anything or at least go far. In the 1 year in particular, I remember probably the bottom of the bottom that they reached before winning that World Series was 2019, where they lost to the Nationals. Obviously the team of destiny, but I mean, damn, in 5 games to them, and it was rough going there. But yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of things that went wrong in that series, but I will say this is that probably more things went right for the Padres than what went wrong for the Dodgers. I think that
that's what I was thinking with that.
Yeah, Trent Grisham. What? Like, I said it, in last show with Gabe that with him, he had I believe it was the 5th worst OPS going into the postseason. And he's come out and been virtually the MVP, right? It's like he's been their best hitter, one of their best hitters in the postseason. Obviously Soto hasn't done, great since going to the Padres, but he's done better than him in the postseason. And yeah, I think when it comes to their pitching also, it's just been, on fire, and their bullpens, come out too, and done their job. And with guys like, Josh Hader, who, hey, had a better second half of his stint with the Padres, and has been, on fire as well going into the postseason. He's also been doing his thing. So, they have all the pieces to win a World Series. And as Chris said, they are very similar to the Phillies. So that's why I'm excited to see how that series unfolds. And the game 1 was already a battle, and we'll talk a little bit about that when we talk about the LCSs. But it's already been a battle, so I hope that's continues to be that way. Going over to the American League side. Oh, do you want to say something, Chris? Go ahead.
It's weird. I was thinking about it. So you look at the Lakers and the Dodgers, who aren't necessarily owned by the same people. I know Magic's involved in both, but they've had this analogous last few years. They both won the title in 2020, which people are scrutinizing so heavily because of what a weird year it was. And it's fair. It's fair to say that. I know you play the games and you play the playoffs and you play the championship, and whoever wins wins, and it's in the books. But you can't discount how thrown off that year was for everybody involved, both in the NBA and the MLB. And then after that, they've had these top tier teams with top tier talent who have underperformed against either traditional rivals or regional rivals. The Lakers, it was that series against the Suns in the first round, and now with the Dodgers, it was losing to the Padres. And I think they both had similar questions about the coach, or whether it's the head coach and the manager, the coaching staff overall. And I don't. I think the Dodgers get a pass on their players because, and they should, because they've got fantastic players who had a great regular season and who didn't necessarily come up in the playoffs. But I agree with Miles on that point because you have to look at those guys when the time comes to really make your money, and that's in the postseason. So as well as Freeman and Turner and Betts did in the first 162 games, you got to look at the next 6 or 7 and say, where did things go wrong for these guys?
Yeah, no, that's the one thing too, is that I think that if they do get, for example, if they do let Dave Roberts go, whoever's going to step in there is obviously just going to take them to the postseason next year. I think it's all on the players. It's going to be a lot on the players, especially next year, to kind of see what they can do facing this adversity. Because I mean, yeah, every year you throw out there an all-star team, and also I think one more thing on the Dodgers, that they banked on their depth, and I don't think that or I don't not that I don't think it didn't happen, but their depth just couldn't handle it. I think their bullpen is consistent, but in the playoffs it's not scary. Uh so, and with the whole closer role too, with they didn't Kimbrel wasn't there. He wasn't even on the LDS roster. Trinan was their closer, and I like Trinan. I respect him, but I mean, Brewster Gratterall also is a good name, but their bullpen compared to other teams, I mean, it just wasn't looking that great. So I think that their depth wasn't as good as they expected it to be, especially in the postseason, as good as other years, because they have showed up in other years, but not this year.
Yeah, I think to add to that point,
Mm,
when you look at certain decisions that he made with that bullpen during that series, I know that was questioned a lot. And once you see some of these guys struggling out of the pen, once you see some of these starters getting knocked out of the game earlier than they're intending, and they're I'm noticing each game they're running through the depths of their bullpen. I don't think Dave Roberts was expecting that, but I think it's on him to be prepared for anything. So
yeah.
I think that's a good point. I think, to kind of go back to what you asked me, Chris, I think that right there is where we got to hold Dave Roberts accountable, not just depending on thinking that this is just going to be like a cakewalk. Which I understand, everyone understands the MLB, but the Dodgers had to go into that series feeling pretty high about themselves. Understandable, but I just don't think that they're prepared to be challenged as much as they were. Specifically, Dave Roberts, I don't think he was as prepared for it. So certain moves, I just saw him improvising a little bit.
Fully agree.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens with his future, but I'm sure that he's the type of manager, though, despite of what's happening with the Dodgers, I'm sure he'll find a job real quick. So I want to see, because I want to see him what he does on another team, because you could say, oh, he's had these Dodger teams, but for his whole managerial career, let's see how he does, with another team. Moving over to the American League now, we'll start off with the series that ended swiftly, as much as it was entertaining, nonetheless. Was the Mariners and Astros. I expected the Mariners to put up more of a fight when it came to win-loss, but they just weren't able to do it. And had the Astros still moving on from that series, despite or whoever was going to win that wild card series, the Mariners and Jays. But yeah, I just think that the Astros just proved why they're the best team, and they're probably the best team left when you look at everything that's happening with the LCS. Uh, but they were able to out hit the Mariners, and with an offense that was pretty on fire going into the postseason, with Cal Raleigh and all those guys just hitting on all cylinders. And the Astros kind of put their foot down. Yordan Alvarez is an alien; he's not real. So those home runs that he hit were just so clutch and just out of this world. So literally. But yeah, Chris, what did you think about that series as a whole, as the Astros won 3-0?
I agree with you. It said a lot about Houston and their tenacity, even as they were kind of leading from the front. And that's not to talk about the games, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But the Astros showed it just about every turn this year. And the last 3 or 4 years, they've been the Dodgers, but coming through when it really comes up. They've been winning, and they've been showing why they're the best team. They even after the fiasco that they engineered themselves, they have a quality organization. They rebounded from Carlos Correa. They got Jeremy Pena in that slot. And I hope he's a standout. I honestly hope he's a standout. I haven't heard anything about him for me to wish anything upon him otherwise. I remember the funny thing about Yordan Alvarez. I remember when he and Aristides Aquino on the Reds were both coming up at the same time and both just hitting bombs out of the ballpark, and they were comparing the two. And Aquino's just really cooled off trying to find his way. Alvarez has become a legit threat to be the best hitter, best designated hitter in the league, either league now that the DH is universal. And like you said, he's off the charts. He's an alien. With the Mariners, next year is going to be a very, very big moment for them because they had leads, I think, in all 3 of those games. And they had leads after the 6th inning, I think. I know the first game for sure, I was looking like they're going to keep their momentum. They're going to win this one and at least get a 1-game lead on Houston. And then Astros just came back. And then in that last game, it was going to be who was going to blink first. I didn't think the Mariners are going to win that one just because it went so long. And after that, you have to try and win 3 games against one of the best teams that we've seen in the last 5 or 6 years. But the Mariners showed themselves this year. They showed it last year when they came close to making the playoffs. They showed it this year when they grabbed that last spot. They just really came and took it. And they showed it this year playing against the consensus best team. I think just because of what you said about the bullpen, so I would have put them better than the Dodgers, and the Mariners played them tough. They made that team work. So I think that's a credit to both teams. I would put Houston up as my favorite to win the World Series, unless Philadelphia, unless their bats just stay hot or get even hotter. But I would put Houston as my World Series favorite, especially after that series.
I agree. I think Houston they're just a beast. They're a beast to be reckoned with. There's no such thing as like the perfect baseball team, but like, hey, they come pretty close. This team is pretty solid. They really? That last game, are you serious? 18 innings, no runs? Really? That's incredible. And by the way, as I'm watching this game, I didn't think the Mariners were going to score at any point. They'll get base runners on here and there, and I'd be like, oh, okay, cool, good for them. They feel good about themselves. Now, I really wanted the Mariners to win that series because that'd be so cool for Seattle. But the Astros, that pitching staff was lights out. Every pitcher, every single one, is blowing it past a hitter. And it's just, I don't know. It was incredible. The Astros are unfair. That is an unfair team. I think the commissioner needs to step in and dismantle this ball club because it makes no sense why they're this good. I don't get it. Everyone, McCullers, Presley, Abreu, Stanek, everyone who pitched amazing. And it just says so much about how talented this team is. And I didn't even talk about the lineup. Jose Altuve didn't even play well during that series. Yordan Alvarez is scary. It's scary. Good luck to the rest of the teams. It's just that's a very fun baseball team to watch. I know that, us diehard fans, we have our feelings towards them because of what has happened in the past. I think for me personally, this year they've shown me that they could be a good baseball team without that bull crap because they've always been a talented team, and now they're just proving it even more. Offensively, they're scary, and defensively, they're incredible as well. They just click on all cylinders. So I think this is a team that is playing with a lot of good momentum. But then again, I was wrong about most of my teams.
Lance McCullers, man, I remember watching him and seeing him be injured and just not come up, and I was like, I wrote him off. And then he played against the Sox, and I was looking at his curveball like nobody's going to hit this. What happened? Where did this dude? When did he become Pedro Martinez, dude. Like, what happened?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, right? And he had a stint where he had a year where he was injured for most of the year, and then he pitched out of the bullpen with the Astros, and I feel like that kind of almost helped his game a little bit. And after that, he came back and he was like an all-star starter or something. I mean, it's just that dude he's got it all. And not to mention he's not phased by anything, but that's most of the Astros, right? It's like these Astros, you see them and they're not phased by anything. Like they're just
Nothing.
18 innings. And as you said in the 18-inning game, I was watching the game just thinking, I'm not, I want the Mariners to win, but I'm just waiting for the Astros to score. Like
Right, you know what's gonna happen at some point. You just know it's
we're this deep. I don't think the Mariners are gonna score at all, and that happened. So it's a tough way for their season to end like that. But look, the Mariners made it this far, and they were able to beat a very talented Blue Jays team, and they'll be back. This is just the beginning. I mean, they got Luis Castillo for another few years.
Yep.
They got that core, for a little bit. So it'll be they all they can do right now is add, and that I'm sure they'll add some key pieces in the offseason, because look, their bullpen was strong with Swanson, Munoz, but I think that the Astros, knowing those pitchers, them being in the same division, knowing them helped, and also just the fact that the Mariners had to kind of reach in their pocket a little farther and pull out guys like Robbie Ray in there didn't help the situation, and yeah, it just was a fun series as much as it was a sweep. But yeah, I think the Astros for sure are going to take the AL. But the other team that's might have something to say about that is the Yankees, and the Yankees are the ones that just finished their series on Tuesday night, as a rain out, so much stuff that has happened in that series. But the Yankees were able to escape the Guardians. Cleveland, they were up 2-1. And they weren't able to close it out, and the Yankees came away with a 3-2 series win. I mean, it's a lot of things happened for the Yankees in the last 2 games that I expected the series. I expected the series to go. Garrett Cole did his thing, and Judge and Stanton were hitting bombs. So, Chris, what did you think about the way this series unfolded?
It's so hard to put this into perspective for me. Not from an objective standpoint, more subjective. Having watched the AL Central and having watched Cleveland for so long, you just kind of expect them at some point, even when they're good. They weren't necessarily that good this year, but they came on strong late. But even a season like this, they're just gonna at some point they're just gonna fold. They won't have it. And some part of me finally got division pride and was like, you know what, I want us to actually put on. So I hope Cleveland wins. Part of me actually said that. And they went up 2-1, and they have promising Oscar Gonzalez, Tristan McKenzie finally coming to form. He looks like he's going to be really solid. Bieber's still pitching well. And they just lost another lead. I can't say any more than that. I think they got unfairly shafted by these rainouts and a rain shortened game in Game 5. I think that hurt them somewhat because I didn't get to see that one, but just having them knowing that they were up against it with the weather pattern that was in New York, they were going to have to score early. They were going to have to score often, and they didn't do it. Even in Yankee Stadium, where you've got a couple free home runs if you get the ball in the air, they couldn't do it. The Yankees don't look like world beaters to me either, but I can't say Garrett Cole made his mark on the postseason in the division series. That's something that you got to do in the championship series or later. So that's like, again, I think that Houston's a better team. That's why Houston's my World Series pick, because I think that they are just miles better than the Yankees. That's a team that can shut down home run bats, even in Aaron Judge's best season of his career. Whoever was coming out of that series, it was weird because I think the Houston-Seattle series was more of a dogfight, even though Houston won in a sweep. I think it was just like one team won one game, one team won the other game. It was like a back and forth of teams kind of not showing up as much as they possibly could. Both teams showed up in that other series, even if it went 3 games. So the Yankees aren't I'll be very surprised if the Yankees make the World Series. I'll say that much.
I agree. I agree. Don't do this. Don't do this when you're down. But what? You kidding me, bro?
Hold on, let me see it again. I got to see it again. I got you.
I got you. What are we doing? What, really? Now listen. I like Josh Naylor. I like him a lot. I love the energy he plays with. He plays with all that, bro. What? Really? Are you kidding me right now? Listen. The Yankees are still the Yankees at the end of the day. Kind of going off of what Chris said, I really did not see the Yankees losing this series. Now they had Judge's number pretty much the entire time. They had the Yankees fans booing at him and all this other jazz. This is a very talented ball club, and like Chris said, they're not world beaters at all. But yeah, they're still the Yankees. How are you gonna say that you're his daddy? That's your son, and that's not even a go-ahead home run. All that did was fire them up more. And then you go to New York, and what do you think Yankees fans are going to do? They're Yankees fans. They're Yankees fans. It's New York. You do that, you lose. Now the momentum is even more on the Yankees side. And then you go to Yankee Stadium with that fan base, with this ball club. Like, it just, I don't know. This is such a talented team, and props to Stanton as well, who stepped up in many at bats where Judge was struggling. Now I think he's also missed a lot of barrels, but Rizzo also had a great series, and he's been playing well. They're a very well seasoned team, and I don't think the Guardians had that that push to get past the Yankees. Once you see the Yankees get to Bieber, I was like, all right, well, here we go with this jazz. I don't know. The Yankees are the Yankees, but we still got to respect this ball club. We got to understand who they are as a team, and that outcome doesn't surprise me too much.
You can't. It just can't. I didn't even know that Josh Naylor did that, but you know what? Let me put it out there right now. White Sox should have won this division. I know I've said it once already in this podcast. We're not even talking about the White Sox that much. But the White Sox went into Yankee Stadium and beat them boys back-to-back in the doubleheader. And Tim Anderson actually hit a meaningful home run and told those cats to shut the F up. And they couldn't say anything back. They really couldn't. And they were like, oh, we're going to defend Josh Donaldson. Josh Donaldson's cousins don't like him. Like, there's going to be some stories that come out about Josh Donaldson that are going to make Aaron Rodgers read the paper and be like, man, this dude's kind of an asshole, man. Like seriously, he really did that when I don't understand why Cleveland can't do it. They did this in 2007. They let Manny Ramirez come in their stadium when sports journalists everywhere were still like, oh, well, you need to play the game the right way. And he did that in the game and he lost. And guess what? The Red Sox came right back and won the series. I thought it was it. I thought Cleveland had the stuff. They had CC Sabathia going strong, and then they folded. When Cleveland had the chance in, 2018 when they went up 2-0 on the Yankees, they folded. In 2016, they folded. This team is like a manila envelope every single time. They're just going to wrap up and go home. I got nothing left for them. I have nothing left. I'm sorry, Miles, you put me in. I didn't even know he did that. That's hot garbage. The
Yankees fans were ripping him a new one for doing it too.
Yeah. They should have.
Chanting, "Who's your daddy?"
Yeah. They should have. They took it all the way back to 2004. They took it back. That's wild, man. Padres are looking at Trent Grisham like, yeah, we chose right. We chose right. We got rid of the right dude. And I thought the Padres had screwed up getting rid of Naylor. I saw what type of hitter he could be. And now he's going to waste away in Cleveland. Get that man a better haircut, bro.
Oh, my God. As if the Yankees couldn't like roast them enough after yesterday.
Bro, I got
you guys went on to do it. Yeah, I mean,
just broke my mic. Gosh damn it. It's loose now. Crap.
Hey, we're not even Guardians fans. Imagine me Guardians fans, man.
Oh, it's got to. They better hope the Cavs get it done.
Yeah. No, that's the thing too. You know, when talking about Josh Naylor, I was thinking the same thing. You know, he hit a home run to make it a 1-run game. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And then I knew knowing the Bronx, you know, you do something like that, it's only gonna light the fire, you know, of the Yankee fans, and it did. And they came out yesterday and just were eating them alive. They were doing that, and then they were like, you know, chanting, "Who's your daddy?" Even the Yankees' wives after the series were doing the baby celebration after. So man, it was a
when you're
rough going
winning,
for that. Yeah,
or
yeah,
you're about to win the series. Don't do it when you're down and you're gonna
yeah,
go back to New York.
yeah,
Oh my God.
yep.
What is? I don't know. I love Naylor, but I don't know about that one, bro.
Yeah, no, they asked,
If it ties the game, solid.
right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
going down by one, you're early. You're early.
Come on, yeah. And
You're early.
they asked Glaber about the, you know, what you know, how it feels, you know, to beat them and then beat Naylor, whatever. And then he's like, oh yeah, he was doing that celebration, but now, you know, he's gonna watch us at home now. You know, so I was like, dang, you know, and it really came back to bite him for sure. But yeah, the Yankees, I mean, they really aren't. They have a lot more questions that you know, need to be answered, and you know, with the series against the Astros, they're not gonna have enough time to answer them. They just don't. They don't have a you know, the team that they had in the first half of the season. You know, that was, you know, the best team in baseball at one point. It's just not that team right now. They're just trying to do enough to get by. And you know, they did that against the Guardians, and I'm afraid it won't be enough like that against the Astros. As much as, you know, I would like to see an up. I love upsets, and we've had plenty of them in the, you know, so far. And it would be interesting to see a Yankees, you know, Phillies or Yankees Padres World Series. I just think the Astros are going to go through, and what, you know, I don't think it's going to be a sweep by any means, but I think it'll be 4-1 or 4-2. But kind of going into that, uh, we'll continue with AL. For you guys, ultimately, what is your prediction, or how do you feel that the Astros and Yankees match up in the American League Championship Series? We'll start with you, Miles.
Oh gosh, it's going to be a fun series. It's going to be a really fun series to watch. I do believe the Astros are going to come out on top still. I'm not sure who's starting game one. Okay, Jameson Town and Justin Verlander.
Mm.
Yeah, I think I do believe that the momentum is still on the Astros side, especially with them starting off at home. You know, it's gonna be a hard fought series. I think we're gonna get some pretty cool baseball moments for two very competitive teams.
Mm.
But you know, as to how long this series goes, I can't really say if I wanted to, but I do believe that the Astros are going to outlast the Yankees and, you know, pretty much take control of the series early on. So you know, I think it's going to be a good battle though between both ball clubs, but I'd be very surprised if the Astros didn't come out on top in this series.
The pitching, I think, is not necessarily going to determine things, because when if things go right for both teams, you could knock the starting pitcher out in the fourth before the fifth, no matter who they are. If it's Verlander, if it's McCullers, if it's Nestor Cortez Jr., if it's Garrett Cole, you know, either one of these offenses could find. They're both two of the most patient offenses in the league. They wait you out. They draw walks. They get guys on base, and when they take the opportunity, they do hit the ball hard. So I don't necessarily think it's going to come down to the pitching. I just something in me says that Houston is still that much better, and I don't know necessarily if it's on the bullpens as well. I see Houston winning in five. Don't ask me why. I just do. I just have Houston going out early. It seems like this is the year where they just kind of roll over everybody.
Yeah, no, that's what I was thinking too. Is just that, as we said before, I mean, how good they are, and them being the best team. when you match them up against the Yankees, it's just, yeah. I mean, and another thing too I want to say about the Astros is that this is probably the best team that we've seen, with, of this era with, Altuve. And this is a team that won the World Series in 2017, despite, what happened if, they cheated or whatever. But this so far looks like the best team that they put together, which is scary. And I just don't think it's their match. I don't think the Yankees are a match for them. So, but it'll be a good series with all the pettiness, all the backstories, because this is Yankees Astros Part 3. And the Yankees really want the revenge on them. I don't think they're gonna get it, but they really want that revenge because they just hate the Astros, I think, more than a lot of teams do.
It's going up at Yankee Stadium. That's gonna be a fun one. Yankees fans are gonna be there, present and heard.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be an insane series with when it comes to the crowds too. But kind of shifting to the NL now with the Phillies and the Padres. Now, like I said, they've already played game 1, and that was a 2-0 Philly win. And it looked like, it was a pitcher's duel through and through. And I think that's, what we're probably going to get again in game 2. But it's this series is probably as hard as it gets to, to even predict, as much as, even I think the Phillies winning game 1 to the grand scheme of things does not mean anything. I think that, this series could still go anywhere. But I think when it comes down to it, I'm going to pick probably the Phillies to win the series, just because I think the hitting is going to come through, and I think that the Wheeler and Nola duo is going to be what makes a difference. Now, I could totally see me being completely wrong and the Padres winning 4-1 and just being carried again by their pitching as well, but I think that the Soto effect and being carried by, you can only be carried by Trent Grisham for so long.
Say that sentence again.
Right? I know, right? I'm just like, yeah, Trent Grisham, your MVP. It can only happen for so long. So, what do you think, Chris? What do you think is gonna happen in the series?
It could go anywhere, just like either of you guys said. These are two teams kind of playing with house money the way they came into the postseason. Phillies, the way that they played again, I think they're the team that has the chance to have the bats just really, really, really go off. Like off. They've got to contend with Blake Snell. They've got to contend with a decent pitching staff, not otherworldly. And I looked at the numbers for the Phillies. The Phillies bullpen had one bad game, and they did fairly well. Alvarado and Sir Anthony Dominguez are sharp, but the other guys that you have in that bullpen are either fairly unknown or their reputation's been. I just keep coming back to Brad Hand.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long shot to say that he's going to be a guy who's going to get you 4 holds in a series at this point in his career. But I think the Phillies just have the hotter bats. I would say 6. I'd say Phillies in 6 if anything. But you could see the series go 7 and come down to like a 5-5 game in the 8th.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just some random person gets a big hit. Hassan Kim is going to hit like a 3-run homer or something to send the Padres to the World Series.
Yeah. No, really. Yeah. What do you think, Miles?
I don't know. I don't know when I look at this series. I think these are two very good ball clubs. You got Aaron Nola against, Snell tonight. I think for me, this is going to be a telltale sign as to how the rest of this series is going to go. If the Phillies are able to get to Snell early and knock him out of the game and kind of throw off that bullpen going forward to the series, I think that's going to be for me. That's going to determine a lot going forward, just because if the Padres are a very strong-willed team, but I also think they're a very fragile team. Any sort of momentum shifts away from the Padres, in my opinion, I think things might go downhill for them. Just because they're a very confident team, but I don't think they're as confident as the Phillies. I just don't. So I think going into Game 2, the Padres kind of set the tone on their behalf, and just you got to shut down those bats. You really do. Now, granted, Game 1 was actually a very well pitched game, aside from the absolute mammoth home run that Kyle Schwarber hit Earth, Wind, and Fire out of. I've never seen hands move that quick. I've never seen a ball hit that hard before. That was awesome. And Bryce Harper's reaction was incredible. You know, you hit a ball hard when Bryce Harper when his jaw drops. That's how you know that you made it. So I think just going forward, this game, the game 2 is going to be such a huge determinant of just like momentum and leveling out things. You don't want to give the Phillies momentum, at all going into the rest of this series. So, I couldn't tell you. I'm lost for words as to who I think is gonna win this series. I think it's very well matched, but the Phillies take this game. I might start leaning towards the Phillies just a little bit more. I think they want it a little bit more as well. They're playing with a little bit more heart as well.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, the way that the Phillies are playing, it's almost like they probably don't feel like they're the favorites, even against the Padres, just because they have the better record, they're the home team. Machado, I feel like Machado gets more attention than Harper and all that, and I don't know, but yeah, it's gonna be a series that's gonna come down to the wire, and yeah, like as Chris said, excuse me, as Chris said that it could go into 7 games and it'd be decided in the 8th inning. I could totally see that. So regardless, I think it's going to be a good series, and whoever comes out of this, I think we're going to get a great World Series out of it for sure. Well, that's going to be all the time that we have on episode 29 of the At Bat Baseball podcast. I want to thank Chris for coming on the show, and hopefully we could have, maybe we'll have you next week on again, because so much is happening, man. You and Gabe, hopefully you guys can come on and talk more baseball.
It'll be after the Phillies have swept the Padres or vice versa or something like that. After all the talk we just had, just completely ruin this episode.
Yeah,
gonna have to vault it like Revolt. Oh, my bad. I wasn't supposed to say that.
I think I ruined my part when I broke my mic. Now I'm
no, that was,
good episode, guys.
That was hilarious. That was too good.
On the broken mic, I think that's a good place to go.
Yeah.
Hopefully everyone enjoys the rest of the series, and hopefully enjoys the NLCS and the ALCS. Have a good one, everybody.